Hello, I'm Avis Kalfsbeck, and this is the Peace is Here podcast. Welcome to Peacewarts, School of Peacecraft and Inquiry, where we practice the skills of peace through short daily classes. We take the peace work seriously, but not ourselves. If you're joining us mid-school year, you're not late. Orientation begins at episode 198. Welcome back to Universal Understars 101 in the Tower, Peace Scholars. We have spent a week training our eyes to see the blue marble, a world without seams. But today we look down at the maps in the world below and we see something strange: straight lines. Canadian philosopher and public intellectual John Ralston Saul said, "Abstraction, which is the key to modern reason, has become our most destructive force." If you look at the stars or the rivers or the mountains, nature almost never works in a straight line. Nature works in curves, in flows, and in clusters, but the maps of our modern world are full of sharp artificial angles. In this department, we call this the violence of straight lines. The concept, the abstract eraser. Most of the borders that cause conflict today were not drawn by the people who live there. They were drawn in wood-paneled rooms thousands of miles away by men with rulers and no local knowledge. When you draw a straight line across a map, you're performing an act of abstract violence. You are cutting through ancestral grazing lands, dividing families who speak the same language, and forcing ancient rivals into the same box. You are erasing the lived reality of the ground to satisfy the logic of a distant empire. The history, the Berlin Conference, and Sykes-Picot. The clearest proof of this straight-line violence happened in 1884 at the Berlin Conference. A group of European leaders sat around a table and literally carved up the continent of Africa like a cake. They drew lines through civilizations they had never seen to settle their own scramble for resources. We saw it again in 1916 with the Sykes-Picot Agreement, where Britain and France drew straight lines across the Middle East. These lines weren't meant to create peace, they were meant to manage the reallocation of oil and influence. These borders were built for extraction, not for the people. The perspective, why this matters to you. You might ask, why are we discussing lines that I, as a single person, obviously can't change? The answer is found here in the Department of Universal Understars. We're not just studying geography, we are studying perspective. A straight line is a mental shortcut. It is what happens when we prioritize our own convenience over the complex reality of others. When we learn to recognize the violence of these historic lines, we begin to see where we have drawn similar rigid borders in our own minds, lines between us and them, or right and wrong. To change the map of the world, we must first change the way we permit the straight lines of our own biases to cut through the humanity of others. The thesis, the scramble for ego. The lesson for today is that conflict is often a design flaw. Many of the wars we fight today are the result of trying to defend lines that were never supposed to exist. In the Department of Universal Understars, a peace scholar learns to see national borders not as sacred truths, but as historical artifacts. We recognize that the scramble for resources is just a scramble of egos that refuse to see the high view. Your homework. 1. Interrupt your routine to look at a map of the world and find 3 borders that are perfectly straight lines. Research which colonial power drew them. 2. Write down one question you have after this episode or doing homework number 1. If no question comes to mind, just write no question. 3. Optional. Journal about a line you have drawn in your own life, a grudge or a boundary. Did you draw it for need, or did you draw it out of greed or control? Until our next lesson, keep your eyes on the Understars. Class dismissed. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the Pieces Here podcast, the most helpful way is to follow it wherever you're listening. It helps share the message with others. You can also support this piece work at my Patreon for $4 a month, about what a used paperback goes for these days. Just go to Patreon at patreon.com/Avis Kalfsbeck. That's AVISKALFSBEEK. My most recent book is Monomutante, a best friend eco-fiction novella about food systems, featuring Tilly, Camas, Pedro, and the rest of the gang. It's book 6 in the Pedro the Water Dog Saves the Planet series and is available wherever you buy books. You can find all of my peace projects and stay in touch at aviskalfsbeck.com. Music is by Javier Peque Rodriguez. Sound effects are from Pixabay. Regarding peace, we need not delay or despair. We are not late. We are right on time to love. We are all scholars of peace. Listen for the peace.